Hello Internet, I'm Scarecrow85 and right now we're talking about the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer. It dropped, it's here, and I mean wow, what a thing. So let's go straight into it. I'm going to break this down. We're going to go in via I'm going to briefly sum it up. I mean, I presume you've seen it, but if you haven't, we're going to talk about that very briefly, and then we're going to go into the negatives and then I'm going to finish on the positives. This is a fairly short trailer. It doesn't show a whole lot, but it also shows a whole lot. So the story as a whole appears to be that Sonic the Hedgehog comes to Earth. He comes from another world, another dimension maybe. So Sonic maybe comes from Planet Mobius, which is a parallel world to Planet Earth. We've heard stories about Eggman coming from actual Earth into Sonic's world before. I think that was part of the plotline for Sonic X at some points. So that's fine, I'm okay with that. That sounds interesting, and there's more on that at the end of this video, which we'll get to as well. In terms of the story, though, we know that Eggman is called out by the government to investigate and stop whatever this creature is. They assume it is a creature, and they send this doctor in, who they don't particularly like, but they know he'll get the job done. And so the cat and mouse begins. Apart from that, we don't really know much about it. We know that obviously Eggman becomes obsessed with it. Well, he's not called Eggman. I suspect he's not called Eggman until the end. He's going to go by Dr. Robotnik for most of this, which is also very cool. I like that a lot, and I love the look of the character, but again, more on that in a minute. So story-wise, what we don't know is exactly what's going on, because Sonic talks about saving the world, but at that point, Robotnik, as far as we know, has only been called out to deal with Sonic the Hedgehog. We don't know of any other motives or that he's any more of a threat than just trying to stop Sonic for the government. So we don't know why Sonic's there, we don't know what the greater threat is, what's actually going on. I think there hopefully is more to this story, a lot more to this story than we've currently seen. And that's about all we know so far. There's just some shenanigans on building tops, there are robots. It's all looking very Sonic 06 in terms of design, which is sort of a shame, but also I'm okay with it. Like, you know, it's in the real world. That's certainly the game with the most real world elements, and they worked for what they were worth, so yeah, sure, why not? I mean, it looks like we're, again, at the end of this trailer, we get a little glimpse into possibly Sonic's dimension, and maybe that's where this is going, and we're going to get some more outlandish designs and stuff there, so that would be cool. As for the negatives, let's just do this. Like, I'm basically stalling for time here. Negatives. Okay, Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic himself. You saw the trailer. You saw his face. Like, come on. We've had time to kind of get used to what we already knew this was coming. We knew what he looked like. And if anything, it's kind of worse than we thought. His eyes are so small and almost human. You know those weird pictures where they like take a fruit or an object and they stick like human eyes and a human mouth onto it and it just looks freaky as hell? That's what this looks like. It's spooky. All his features are kind of scrunched up and too small on this like bulbous head, and he's got this like this little human body and this little neck and all those teeth. Look, some angles he looks okay. When he's moving, he definitely looks fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that. I love that he uses a spin dash. I love that there's a lot of what goes on here that I'm kind of cool with. Like, the close-up on his face at the beginning actually is really quite... I like that. I like that a lot. I love that they kept his mouth in the middle as well. That works best, mostly. The biggest problem I have with it is that he doesn't have any eyebrows. Like, he barely has any eyebrows. It's only when he's emoting, sort of like frowning, when his eyebrows come down, that you can really see them. When they're up, when he's supposed to sort of, I don't know, they just disappear into his forehead, and his shocked expression doesn't look shocked. Like, his mouth's open, but his eyes just aren't telling you anything. Cartoon characters are all about exaggeration. That's why they have big eyes. Sonic the Hedgehog is known for having the biggest eyes of any cartoon character ever. Come on. And what have they done? They've given him these teely widdly little shrunken eyes that don't emote. It's bad. It is objectively bad. Like, it's good in some senses. Sure, you can make an argument for it, and they've talked about how they didn't feel like the mono eye that Sonic's famous for, how they felt that couldn't work in a realistic setting. Most Sonic fans are going to disagree with that. It can work. It had to work, because this bloody well doesn't. Just look at it. It's not okay, guys. That said, it isn't changing either, and at times it does look fine, at other times it really doesn't. When he's sitting in the car next to James Marsden's character, and it just looks like this sort of huge bulbous head thing with a little face just on the end of it, a bit like a Thomas the Tank Engine, and I'm like, no, I'm embarrassed even to be looking at this right now. That is just weird. And it takes me out of it. That said, don't get me wrong, I actually have a very sort of overall still fairly positive outlook on this whole thing. I'm not completely destroyed by this trailer. The positives are... I'm quite happy about the positives, but my other major negative for this trailer, I mean, Sonic is by far it. And I suspect if you look at anyone else's videos, if you read anyone else's articles, that's the primary problem with this, and it's a crippling problem because Sonic the Hedgehog is literally it's what it's about. It's him. He's the character. He's a very well known, very well recognised character, and they just haven't done it right. And that just nope. Like I said, there is more to say. So the teleport ring, we see him throw a giant ring through which the characters fall, and they're falling down, but then they end up upright and in a farmstead. Now either he's actually teleported them to Mobius, like to Sonic's world, or that is actually a teleport, in which case there's no precedent for that in the games. I mean, there is a giant ring at the end of the stage in Sonic 1, which takes him to an alternate dimension altogether, the special stage. I would also point out, I think people forget that Sonic 3D, Flicky's Island, or Sonic 3D Blast, I think it was called in America, the sort of pseudo 3D isometric Sonic game with the pre-rendered graphics. That game, it was infuriating. You had to go around collecting flickies and chuck them into a giant ring, and they would disappear. And I think it was explained in the manual, and the comics had a field day on it. Certainly the Fleetway, the ones that I read, the English Fleetway comics, had this whole thing about those giant rings were interdimensional rings. And that's where the flickies were going. They were interdimensional creatures. And they were going to a different world. So it's possible that that's the case, and maybe that explains how Sonic got into this world and how he leaves it again at the end of the film. Maybe. But as it stands, just him being able to whip a teleport out of his ass and just throw it and whoop, now we're not falling anymore and we're safe. OP much? Like, that, where did he... Since when? Like, what is that? I don't know. That bothered me a lot. I wish they hadn't put that in the trailer. I could have done without that. So for me, the major problems are Sonic's design and him having the ability to teleport. I mean, so moving on to the positives, I liked the humour in the trailer. I forgot another negative. The music, just got to throw it in there. Like, what were they thinking? That said, the humour, music notwithstanding, because I mean the music kind of sets a tone, and again, it's a weird tone. But yeah, the humour was on point, and that's mostly down to my next point, humour segue, Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey was by far, in my opinion, the highlight for this whole flipping thing. He was so good, and it's good to see him yeah, look, I loved him in more serious roles. I think that he can do properly nuanced performances as a serious actor or as a tongue-in-cheek actor. I think that I've seen him do all sorts of things and I liked it generally, but seeing him go back to just, a little bit more this kind of quirky, strange, rapid talking, shouting, face-pulling craziness that he does, it's just good to see. And I think I kept wondering if that was not the right thing for Dr. Robotnik, and then actually seeing it. And that's the important thing about a trailer, is it's no longer conjecture. You can see it, you can understand it, you can get a feel for it. And of all the things that I've seen so far, Dr. Robotnik in this film is easily the best thing about this film. And I am going to go and see this film because I wouldn't be a fan if I didn't. But I'm going to enjoy every moment that Carrey is on screen. I already know that. And that's the saving grace for this movie. And that brings me on to the end of the trailer. The end of the trailer is... It's Jim Carrey. We see the trailer end and we see Jim Carrey in the Mushroom Hill Zone, it looks like. He's actually got mushrooms in the background, and it's really cool to see that. It's one of those things where I suspect the background is going to change somewhere down the line, and maybe they're going to do more of an effect shot on that. It's going to look completely different, maybe a bit more lush, more like a jungle maybe. In the finished thing, I think this is like a placeholder background. That does not look finished to me. There's a couple of shots in this trailer that don't look finished, actually, that look really hokey, but this is the first trailer, and quite often with CGI-driven films, we don't often get the finished product in the first trailer. That said, Detective Pikachu did, but Detective Pikachu is obviously apparently in a completely different league, and that is another problem for this film, is overcoming the competition. And it isn't going to, really, is it? Let's face it. But they're going to have a good old stab at it. And that ending where we see that Dr. Robotnik takes a journey through this film from wearing all black and having a very trim moustache to, at the end, he's just gone nuts. Like, he is just determined. He's ended up in their world. His moustache is all bushy. He's got... Oh man, he's gone bald, he's got the goggles. I mean, I freaking love it. That is such a cool look. And it's proper old school Dr. Robotnik, and I am all about that. And that will be the point at which he gets called Eggman. Like, I suspect we couldn't see him fully, but I've heard rumour, and it seems likely that they're going to, like, bodysuit him up a bit to give him more of an Eggman shape, and Sonic's going to call him Eggman. That's where that's going to come in. Unfortunately, all of that looks like post-credit stinger stuff, you know? That looks like it's going to come in right at the very end, and we're not going to get really much of a look at that, which is a real bummer, because they're not getting a sequel out of this, man. Maybe they are, and maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Also, if that's the Mushroom Hill Zone, that means that's the floating island, right? That's Angel Island. Are we gonna see? Are we gonna see other characters? Are we gonna see Knuckles? Is that what this is? Are we gonna get Knuckles? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I think it's a bad thing. God, can you imagine? Oh my gosh, I'm going to keep an eye on Twitter. Somebody do me some fan art of what Tails and Knuckles are going to look like in this art. Please don't do Amy, though. Just don't. I'm not... Just don't. Thank you for watching this. I hope this has been of interest to you. Let me know what you think of this trailer, let me know what you saw in it, and let me know how you feel about the characters. Do you feel that there's anything to be... Do you think that Sonic's okay? Do you think that they should just throw this whole thing in a bin? Do you think that Eggman is the saving grace? Do you think that this is going to be worth seeing for Eggman? As basically I do. Like, I think that he's going to hold this thing together. And maybe James Marsden as well, to give him his credit. Like, he was fairly underwhelming in this trailer, but that's by nature of being second fiddle to Eggman and Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, he's never going to be able to shine against those two, but I think his performance was solid, and he's a really likeable sort of guy and character, it seems. Let me know what you think in the comments anyway. Thanks for watching this. I hope you enjoyed this. Like, subscribe. You know how this goes. You know how YouTube works. It's all good fun. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.